One of the most ignored end-time prophecies just seems fitting. Bible prophecy teachers love to talk about many signs that will precede Christ's return. Some point to the rise of false prophets and teachers, or the revival of the modern state of Israel, as a sign that the end times are upon us. Others point to the increase of earthquakes and other natural disasters. And while all of these are valid biblical signs of the closing days of this present evil age, there is one end-time sign that few prophecy teachers are willing to talk about. And I am referring specifically to Christ's promise that ethnic-based strife, also known as racism, would grow, not shrink, prior to his return. In fact, Christ front-loads this end-time sign in His Olivet Discourse, as recorded in Matthew 24 and Mark 13. Because most of us don't read Greek, which is the original language of the New Testament, we often miss the clear and obvious meanings of the words used by Christ and His apostles. In Matthew 24, verse 7, Christ warns that nation shall rise against nation. While this is generally interpreted to refer to warfare, it is a very specific reference in the original Greek to rising ethnic hatred. We know this because the word nation is derived from the Greek word ethnos, which literally means race. Here is the definition of this Greek word ethnos as it appears in the Strong's Concordance. In other words, Christ warned His disciples that before His return, race shall rise against race. Christ specifically condemned racism through His parable of the Good Samaritan. If you're not familiar with this powerful parable or simply want a refresher, you can read it in the book of Luke, chapter 10, verse 30 through 37. According to Jesus, racism is hatred of one's neighbor. Love for God with our whole being and love for our neighbor as ourselves is how we keep God's commandments today. Clearly, an unrepentant hatred for God leads to eternal death. So too, an unrepentant hatred for one's neighbor of any color is a sure ticket to eternal separation from God. Just see John chapter 13 verse 35, 1 John chapter 2 9 and 11, as well as 1 John 4 verse 20. Despite this clear warning that race will rise against race, how many times have you heard it from the pulpit as one sign of the end of days? Perhaps even more interesting is that many American Christians today actually try hard to teach the opposite of Christ's warning by telling us that racial strife is a thing of the past and is no longer rearing its ugly head today. If they are right, Christ was wrong. But if we believe that Christ is right, then we have no choice but to believe that those who deny the prevalence of racial strife today are wrong. And they are not only wrong, but they are literally opposing and suppressing the hard truth about man's nature as revealed by Christ Himself.